Uh-oh.
I hope you go toe to toe. I hope you don't do the Road Runner, Sonic the Hedgehog. I hope you go toe to toe because it's gonna be good.
We'll see. I feel like I've been fighting at Tiara's level, whereas I don't feel Tiara has been fighting at my level. I think this is a much bigger jump for her than maybe it is for me. We are preparing for the hardest fight of my career, and that's what we're expecting, and that's what we're going into March 22nd ready for.
Tiara's giving it away. She's giving it away what they're worried about, what they expect to be a problem, what they expect to struggle with. Sky Nicholson's movement, what everybody struggles with.
Sky Nicholson's movement.
You can chalk it up to playful banter if you want to, but when she says don't do the Sonic the Hedgehog thing, stand in one spot, go toe-to-toe, since when has Sky Nicholson been known for that?
And why the hell would she do it when her bread and butter is how elusive she is her movement?
Sky Nicholson is 29 years old, a southpaw to Tiara Brown, who is 36 and an orthodox fighter. The harder puncher of the two, I have no doubts in my mind, but what do I always say? Power counts for nothing if you can't land. And if you're relying on Sky Nicholson to sit in the pocket with you and trade to land your power shots,
it's because you think you can't land.
Not if she's on her toes, on the outside, loose and limber, and using the ring, sporting a professional record of 12 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout.
To Tiara Brown, who sports a professional record of 18 wins with no losses, no draws, 11 recorded knockouts. That's 11 recorded knockouts against quality of competition that really ain't much better than Sky's.
Being honest, it ain't better than Sky's. Sarah Mahfood, for example, is a better fighter than any fighter you'll find on Tiara's resume.
No ring rust.
Tiara was last in action in January of this year opposite the ring veteran journeywoman Calista Salgado, who she didn't stop. She didn't knock her out over 8 rounds, and Calista Salgado is a far cry from what she'll be facing in Sky. And Calista, you're talking about a shorter, stumpier fighter, an older fighter.
Losses in the double digits.
Not as mobile, not as agile, nowhere near as well schooled. And if you couldn't knock her out, I do not see how you're going to stop a Sky Nicholson.
I don't see it.
I want to say that I think Sky has dealt with more fighters like Tiara in her 12 fights than Tiara has dealt with fighters like Sky in her 18 fights. Except that Tiara Brown has been around a lot longer than Sky Nicholson. Tiara debuted as a professional in 2016. Sky doesn't come into it until 6 years later in 2022. That comparatively, you've been around a lot longer than she has, and by all rights, your resume should look a lot better than hers does, but it doesn't.
To fight.
I do think Tiara, if she can land, she has enough power to hurt Sky Nicholson. Enough power to mess her up, but power counts for nothing if you can't land. And if you've seen them both in action, Tiara is noticeably slower than Sky Nicholson and more flat-footed.
That's compared to Sky. Maybe Tiara is more athletic than some other fighter. Maybe she's faster on her feet than some other fighter, but she's fighting Sky, and she's not faster than Sky, not lighter on her feet than Sky.
The role of movement.
Because Sky moves around so much, she keeps her opponents on the move, which prevents them from setting their feet and letting their power shots go. For a power puncher, you draw your power from the ground up. Generally, you need to set your feet to do it.
Unless you're just freakishly strong like an Artur Beterbiev, and Tiara Brown is not the featherweight division's Artur Beterbiev. She isn't.
She's a puncher, but she's not that big a puncher. If she were, she would have knocked out Calista Salgado.
No, I anticipate that Tiara's gonna struggle to get within striking distance of Sky, the same as everybody else. It'll be another situation where Sky coasts to a points win.
Another unbeaten fighter, another unbeaten scalp, one more seasoned than Raven Chapman.
Resume's coming along nicely. Lucy Wildheart, former champion, and Sarah Mahfoud, an unbeaten fighter, and Raven Chapman, another one in Tiara Brown. Sky is establishing herself as the most dominant force at this weight, fight by fight, in the absence of Amanda Serrano, who I do not expect will return to this division.
Win or lose against Katie.
For better or worse, the Sky Nicholson era is upon us, and sky is the limit, as they say.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Canelo Alvarez says the Crawford clash could be one of the biggest fights in boxing history. I suppose that depends on who distributes it.
New York. Canelo Alvarez believes his planned September bout versus Terence Crawford will be one of the biggest fights in the history of boxing. Alvarez, boxing's top star, made the comments during an ESPN interview following Thursday's news conference to promote his undisputed super middleweight title fight against William Skull on May 3rd. What will be a huge weekend in the sport of boxing, because Ryan is fighting Rolly that weekend, Canelo is fighting William that weekend, and Inouye will be returning to action. Canelo's fight will take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on the morning of Sunday, May 4th, to accommodate a Saturday evening broadcast for Canelo in North America on Cinco de Mayo weekend. Mexico's Alvarez holds 3 of the 4 major titles at 168. He was stripped of the IBF title in July. That title was won by Cuba's William Skull, and now Canelo's gonna go win it back.
Bring it to the Crawford fight.
If you haven't seen William Skull in action, and you probably haven't since he's based out of Germany, think of him as being a less talented, a less skilled Erislandy Lara, just bigger and younger.
And less talented.
If Alvarez is successful and emerges uninjured, then the plan calls for him to defend the undisputed super middleweight crown versus Crawford in September in Las Vegas.
Everybody thought it was going to go down in Saudi. The fight between Terence and Canelo. They're doing it in America. According to this, they're doing it in Vegas. So you ain't missing out on nothing.
But the criticism has been that with Turkey poaching all of these fights and poaching all of these fighters and doing them in Saudi Arabia, the American boxing fans are missing out. That's what the criticism has been. So he goes ahead and does a major fight in New York for September. He wants to do another one in Vegas.
You guys are still complaining?
The people complaining. I don't actually think any of these bums were going to go to any of these fights. I don't think they go to fights. I don't think they buy them either. I think they're just a bunch of malcontents looking for something negative to say.
Losers.
Just look at how much he's accomplished, and look at how much I've accomplished, said Alvarez, 34. So imagine 2 fighters with those accomplishments. It's huge, huge. And I think that's why I think now it makes sense for a lot of reasons. Everybody says he's a smaller fighter, but I've won titles in 4 weight classes, so I know great fighters can succeed at higher weights. Alvarez is ESPN's number 6 pound-for-pound fighter, believes this matchup with Crawford, ESPN's number 2 pound-for-pound fighter, could be bigger than his 2013 fight with Floyd Mayweather. He's a complete fighter, Alvarez said of Crawford, a 4-weight champion. For now, though, Alvarez is focused only on Skull, and his first fight outside of North America, it was a dream to fight in other countries, Alvarez said. I feel at this moment in my career, I need that kind of motivation, that idea to open doors in the whole world.
You're not sure this William Skull fight ain't a banana peel? That he could spoil all the plans?
They said if you've seen William Skull in action, he's a less talented Erislandy Lara, just bigger and younger, but less talented. And by now, Canelo Alvarez having shared the ring with fighters like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders.
Pure boxers like William Skull is a pure boxer?
He's matured as a fighter to where he knows how to deal with that style. He has the remedy, so he won't struggle with William like he struggled with Lara so many years ago.
Seen a good number of pure boxers since then. Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders. Jermel Charlo.
I wouldn't call Jermel Charlo an according to Hoyle textbook pure boxer, but he tried to be in the Canelo Alvarez fight, moving and trying to stay on the outside to no avail because he still got dominated. So Canelo knows how to deal with that kind of fighter, that kind of fight by now, to where I don't get any banana skin energy from William Skull. I think Canelo beats him on points.
I don't get any of the banana skin energy that I got with the Dimitri Bivol fight because I identified Dimitri as a dangerous fight for Canelo when that was announced. This is manageable.
I don't get the sense William is going to spoil the party. Canelo Alvarez, I think, will make it to the Terence Crawford fight that he anticipates will be bigger than the Mayweather fight from so many years ago.
But will it?
That fight sold about 2.2 million pay-per-view buys on the Showtime platform at a time when the boxing market was a lot more healthy and fertile than it is now. The boxing fans were a lot more receptive to these kinds of fights, whereas these days, they're not buying pay-per-views as much. They have piracy as an alternative.
Pay-per-views are more expensive than they used to be, so less people are buying them. They have piracy as an alternative.
At an $80 price point through conventional means, I think this fight could do $1 million or over $1 million, just in the neighborhood of $1 million pay-per-view buys. We know that's still possible because Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia did just over $1 million. So between Canelo's fans and Crawford's fans, this could do just over $1 million, but not 2.2 like Canelo versus Mayweather.
Then why does Canelo think that this would be bigger?
Well, he cited his own accomplishments alongside Terrence's as the driving force, but if there is one, if there's actually reason to believe that this might be bigger than Canelo versus Mayweather, it's not because of accomplishments so much as distribution. Remember what I told you. Through conventional means, at an $80 price point, this does a fantastic gate and about $1 million pay-per-view buys, in the neighborhood of $1 million. But who says the distribution is going to be conventional? I'm hearing more and more blurbs about Netflix picking up this fight.
It's already a moneymaker by itself through conventional means. But if Netflix gets involved and they pick up this fight and they distribute this fight the same way they did Tyson versus Jake Paul,
then it's bigger. It absolutely is, because it will have been seen by a bigger audience. Even though Netflix is an app, they're tantamount to a terrestrial network because they have about the same reach as a terrestrial network.
More than premium cable. Showtime in its heyday boasted about 33 to 35 million subscribers.
35 million homes, and that was in their heyday. I'm sure that number has dropped significantly by now, whereas Netflix is available in over 200 million homes around the world. Everybody's got Netflix. Smart TVs come with Netflix.
It's everywhere. They've come a long way from their inception.
So between Turkey LL Sheik paying the fighters to make it happen and potential involvement from a giant platform, that's what could push this over the top. That's what could make this bigger than Mayweather versus Canelo, because more people will have seen it since it's available in more homes.
The caveat is, they gotta do this how they did Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Don't tuck it behind a paywall. Make it available to all of your 200 plus million subscribers. Then I could see this being bigger than Mayweather versus Canelo.
In terms of scale, because of the size of the audience, that many, many more people will have tuned in to see this if they distribute it that way. Never mind the money, and never mind the purses, because you know Canelo's gonna make an astronomical amount of money, and so is Terrence. Floyd Mayweather received an estimated $41.5 million from the Canelo Alvarez fight. I anticipate Canelo Alvarez will receive more than that from the Crawford fight. Canelo was estimated to have made $12 million from that fight with Floyd Mayweather. I anticipate that Terrence will make more than that.
He made $25 million with Spence. I think he's gonna make a lot more with Canelo. So in terms of money, it's bigger for them.
Bigger fight purses. But in terms of audience, the only way I can see this being bigger than Canelo versus Mayweather is if they distribute it the way they did Tyson versus Paul. Then it's definitely bigger. Bigger in every department.
Cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll see what happens.
Men's heavyweight news, Joyce is set to face a former Daniel Dubois opponent following Dillian Whyte withdrawal. Disappointing, because I was looking forward to that one. I mean, Joyce versus Dillian Whyte has CTE written all over it.
My speech is getting slurred just thinking about that fight.
Joyce has seemingly secured a more formidable assignment after it emerged that his heavyweight clash with Dillian Whyte had been scuppered. The Juggernaut was supposed to square off against Whyte 31-3 with 21 knockouts on April 5th, headlining Queensberry Promotions' first DAZN show at the Co-op Arena in Manchester, England, with the body snatcher suffering a hand injury during his training camp. However, he was ultimately forced to pull out of their scheduled showdown. Joyce, 16-3, 14 KOs meanwhile, was set to face little-known heavyweight Patrick Corte last Saturday, featuring on the undercard of Ryan Garner versus Salvador Jimenez in Bournemouth. But then, it was revealed during fight week that the 39-year-old's first outing since his unanimous decision loss to Derek Chisora last July would no longer take place. Instead, it appeared that Joyce was fully focused on his upcoming clash with Whyte, but must now cast his attention on a vastly different challenge. A source has told Boxing News that Olympic bronze medalist Filip Hrgovic has been drafted in as an alternate opponent for the Londoner. The 32-year-old comes off a punishing 8th-round stoppage defeat to IBF champion Daniel Dubois, failing to maintain his unbeaten record last June. But still, Hrgovic, 17-1 with 14 knockouts, has nonetheless proven to be a ferocious puncher in the land of the giants and arguably presents a more dangerous challenge than Whyte would have.
My thoughts.
They say Dillian hurt his hand. No, he's not going to fight Joe. This opens a door for him to fight Anthony Joshua, upon his ring return. Remember, that rematch was revisited. They were going to do it, but Dillian Whyte popped hot.
Went through that entire ordeal to clear his name, and eventually he did. So if he's withdrawn from the Joyce fight, that does leave the door open for him to fight Anthony later on in the year. And for Anthony, who's coming off a crushing defeat, that would be an ideal opponent.
To ease him back into activity, Dillian Whyte, who he's fought before, beat before, might beat him again.
He might.
And for Dillian, he might stand to make more money boxing Anthony Joshua than he would have boxing Joyce. A chance for revenge at the most ideal time to fight Anthony, when he's coming off a loss and he could be on the back nine.
It's a possibility.
Over to Joyce and Filip Hrgovic. In case you're not aware, these two guys got unfinished business. They fought each other in the amateurs, and when they did, Filip Hrgovic won.
This is a chance for Joyce to exact vengeance in the paid ranks for what happened in the amateurs. I don't think Filip is with Matchroom anymore.
Is he a stiffer test than Dillian Whyte would have been? I think so, because I don't think he's as easy to knock out. I don't think Filip Hrgovic is as susceptible to the uppercut as Dillian or as Chinny. That is, I think Filip Hrgovic takes a better punch than Dillian Whyte does, so this is arguably a better fight on paper, though perhaps not as marketable a fight on paper, because Dillian and Joe, these are guys that the Brits are familiar with. This is a fight they would come out to see, whereas Hrgovic, who's from Croatia,
he ain't got a following like Dillian Whyte does.
Whatever the size of that following is, Dillian has more supporters in the UK, I'd say, than Filip Hrgovic.
But I'll take it. If Filip is standing in for Dillian, that's a good fight. That's a better fight to me.
Tougher opponent, so I'll take it.